In this video I'm showing how I wall mounted a Samsung 70-inch TV using a Cheetah wall mount kit from Amazon. I wanted to get an idea what the TV would look like on the wall, so I started by measuring the dimensions. Then I took a utility knife and I cut out a square from the box that was the same size as the screen. You definitely don't have to be this neurotic about it, but I just wanted to kind of get a feel for it before I started drilling holes. I settled on a height that seemed like it was about eye level with where I'd be sitting on the couch. As for the wall mount kit, I got it for about $25 from Amazon. For $25 I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but the mount had pretty decent reviews, so I decided to give it a chance. It comes with everything you see here, which was enough to attach the mount to the TV. I bought a few other things separately, and I'll mention those later in the video. The first step was to assemble the wall plate. To do that I just had to remove these 4 screws, and then slide the 2 halves of the wall plate together, and then tighten all the screws back down. This part was a little bit fiddly, and this was where the $25 of workmanship kind of showed here. One of the holes didn't line up very well, but I just fought with it for a few minutes and eventually got the screw in. I had been using this TV with the feet on for a few weeks before deciding to wall mount it. If that's also your case, you can remove the feet by just pulling on them. Next I attached the brackets to the back of the TV. The bracket has plenty of holes in it, so I just slid it around until it matched up with the TV. I had planned on using the spacers that came with the kit, but the screws weren't long enough to grab, so I just sat the spacers aside and continued without them. I didn't have any problems as a result of this, so no big deal. Same thing with the other bracket. I positioned it even with the first one, and then screwed it into place. Then I snapped the wall plate into place temporarily. And I took some quick measurements from the edge of the TV to the edge of the wall plate, and I put 2 pieces of tape on the wall just as a reference for where the mount would be centered. In hindsight, I'm sure that there were 10 simpler ways to do this, including one that the instructions had prepared for. When I'm working on a project though, I usually just pick a method and go with it, and don't realize how ridiculous the whole thing was until later when I'm making these videos. I used my stud finder to locate 2 studs that were positioned between the pieces of tape that represent where I wanted the edges of the wall plate to be. I wanted to screw directly into the studs with this rather than using drywall anchors or toggle bolts or whatever. I measured from the floor to where I wanted the top holes for the wall plate to go. For what it's worth, I put the top holes at 62.5 inches from the floor. I really didn't want to screw this up, so I double checked my stud finding and made sure I was level. I'm using these 1/4 inch by 2 inch lag screws to attach the wall plate to the studs. The page from Home Depot's site recommended a 3/32 inch pilot hole. I put up some tape to try to keep down the mess, and then I drilled 2 pilot holes for the lag screws. I used my impact to put the top screws into the studs. Then I drilled 2 more pilot holes for the bottom lag screws. I drove those in with the impact as well, and finished tightening all of them down. And of course I paid 0 attention to the tape I put up, so I had to take it off and move it over some. I got these brush wall plates from Amazon so that I could fish the cables through the wall. They worked out fairly well for what I wanted. I'll leave a link in the description. This is all there is to it. It's just an insert for the drywall, and then a cover with the little bristles for the cables to pass through. I put the insert up against the wall and traced a square out, and then I took a drywall saw and cut the hole out. I didn't get it quite big enough on the first try, so I had to shave a little more off the edges. Then I slid the insert into place and screwed it down. Then I put the little brush panel in place. And finally, the cover. Then I came directly below the plate I just installed and made a mark for the second plate. I also made sure it would be even with the telephone jack that was right next door. And same thing again, I traced out the insert, and then cut another hole with the drywall knife. I got this one right on the first try, so I pushed the insert into place, tightened the screws down, attached the bristles, and lastly the cover. And now comes the embarrassing part. I thought I would just be able to fish the cables through the wall, but when it wasn't quite working out, the shame started to set in. I could feel there was definitely something solid in there, and confirmed with the stud finder that there was a fire stop on the wall. It's embarrassing because I thought I knew better, but no big deal. I had to take the top plate back off so I'd have room to drill, and when I point the camera in the hole here, you can see where the fire stop is. I used a 1 inch spade bit on the end of a locking extension bit to drill a hole through the fire stop. If you have to do this, I'd recommend using the screw setting instead of the drill setting. If the bit snags, it's nice for the clutch to just slip a little bit rather than having the drill twist your wrist all around. And this is the main thing I'd do differently if I had to do this project over. All I had in the garage was a 1 inch spade bit. You can see that this plug is just slightly bigger. I should have just went to the store and bought a bigger spade bit or a hole saw or something. But instead what I did is just punched a couple extra holes with the 1 inch spade bit. So it came out looking like this Mickey Mouse figure here. Then I took my fish tape and pulled it through the wall. I duct taped the end of the power cord to the fish tape, and then pulled it through the wall. This part was a little fiddly and took a minute. It was definitely worsened by the odd shaped hole that I drilled through the fire stop, but after a minute of messing with it, I got the power cord through to the other side. Then I ran my fish tape back through the wall again and did the same for the HDMI cable. At this point I was finished with all of the work that had to be done behind the wall, so I went ahead and put the brush plate back into place as well. So at this point we have the wall plate attached to the wall, and the cables are running through the top brush plate, down behind the wall, and they pop out at the bottom brush plate. I velcroed the end of the extension cord to the wall plate so that it would fit a little more neatly behind the TV. This part would have been difficult to do on my own, so I had my wife help me hang the TV. The mounts on the back of the TV have hooks that grab onto the top of the wall plate, and then the bottom of the mounts should also click in to hold it securely. Connecting the cables is a little sketchy, and it would probably help to have a second set of hands here as well. What worked for me was to pull in the two strings so it would release the latches at the bottom of the mount. Since the mounts at the top are still connected, it shouldn't go anywhere. This allowed the bottom of the screen to swivel out just enough so that I could get a hand in behind there and plug the cables in. By doing this, I was able to connect the HDMI cables on one side of the TV, as well as the power cable on the other side. I used the remaining Velcro that came with the kit to bundle up the cables, and then I tucked them up behind the bottom of the TV. Alright, that's pretty much all there is to it. This is what the finished product looks like. Just gotta head out and buy an entertainment center, and I'll be all set. I hope this video was helpful if you also have a 70-inch Samsung that you're thinking about wall mounting and considering using the Cheetah mount from Amazon to do so. Hit like if this helped you out, and thanks for watching.